Okay, so without wasting time, let me proceed straight to the portions. So last class we were discussing about data pre-processing, data pre-processing, and we, in fact, know that there are 4 steps involved in data pre-processing: data cleaning, integration, data transformation or data selection, in fact by data reduction, and finally the data transformation. Okay, so in that we started with data cleaning process. Data cleaning process. So what are the 2 things to be taken care in data cleaning process? We need to take care about missing data or incomplete data, either by ignoring the tuple or replacing it with some global constant, or we looked into some other ways also. Okay, then the second is all about handling the noisy data. Okay, noisy data you can take care either by binning or by regression or by clustering or by combined computer and human inspection. Okay, so now this is, I mean, so far we have just looked into how to take care of all these things. So now let's look at the data cleaning process as a whole. I hope I'm audible enough. Can someone confirm?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, right. So looking at the data cleaning process as a whole. Okay, so it involves 2 steps. The first one is what is called the data discrepancy detection, and the second one is what is called the data migration and integration. Okay, so first one is regarding data discrepancy detection. Okay, so what is this discrepancy all about? Discrepancy can be due to various issues. Okay, so some people are not deliberately entering certain fields. They don't want to give their personal information like date of birth. That could be a case of discrepancy, or some outdated address is there, in that can also be a discrepancy, or some irrelevant data being supplied, or some inconsistent data. For example, age is being given as 300. So that's an inconsistent data, or some like the system has not recorded the data properly. Okay, or some inadequate data. All these things, or the same attribute having different names in different databases. Okay, for example, the name. Okay, in one particular database it is given as first name and last name. Let's say John Smith. So the second database, it's given as last name first and second, first name second, Smith and John. Okay, so such cases, this has to be taken care. Okay, so now the question is, now we have understood what is discrepancy. How do we deal with, or how do we proceed with this discrepancy detection? Okay, so like you can make use of any knowledge you already have regarding the properties of the data. For example, you would have heard about what is called your metadata. Data about data. You can start with that. Okay, so you can start with that by looking into aspects like domain. What is the domain of each attribute? What are the range of values which is being accepted or permitted for a particular attribute? For example, if it is age, let's assume it should be between 0 and 100. Okay, so, or the dependency, or the distribution, distribution. It can be your mean, median, mode, or whatever. Okay, so the basic statistical data descriptions. Okay, so those will help us to identify the anomalies. Okay, whether the data is skewed or it is symmetric. Okay, or are all the values falling within the expected range? Okay, so what is the standard deviation of the particular attribute? Okay, so values that are having more than 2 standard deviations away from the mean. Okay, so they can be flagged as potential outliers. All these things can be done. Okay, you can find out regarding the noise, outliers, unusual values, and all by this manner. Okay, so that is one way. Then check what is called field overloading. There's something mentioned here as field overloading. What about this field overloading? So this is yet another source for error, field overloading. So that is like to the already defined attributes. Okay, so for example, if there are some unused bits, for example, if it's a 32-bit and only 31 bits are being used and 1 bit is being unused. Okay, so you try to, the developers are trying to squeeze in a new attribute definition to that unused portion. So that's when it happens to be a field overloading. Okay, so that has to be taken care. Then There are three rules mentioned out here: uniqueness rule, consecutive rule, and null rule. Okay, uniqueness rule. What about uniqueness rule? What it says is every attribute should have a unique value. When it comes to DBMS, we'll call it as primary key or unique key. We can define it as a primary key because no two attributes will have the same value. Okay, so uniqueness. It should be unique. No two attributes should have the same value. For example, if it is ID, so no two ID numbers should be the same. That is what uniqueness rule says. Okay, so for a given attribute, all the other values, each and every value should be different. Then consecutive rule. What about consecutive rule? Okay, so if you have defined a lowest value and a highest value, ensure that there are no missing values between the lowest and the highest. Okay, and also ensure that all the values are unique, just like your check numbers or whatever. Okay, then of course you have your null rule. Null rule. Okay, so here when we say null, the cases like your blanks, question marks, special characters, or I mean all these things should be taken care. Okay, so or we'll have to specify it as NA, not applicable, and how those values has to be handled. Everything should be clearly mentioned. Okay, then use some commercial tools, like data scrubbing tools can be used. Okay, so data scrubbing tools use simple domain knowledge. Okay, it's given example, your postal code or a spell check. All these things can be used to detect the errors, and make corrections in the data. Okay, so I mean, that's another way. Okay, so they make use of some parsing technique or some fuzzy logic, or so when you're trying to clean data from multiple sources. Okay, and yeah, adding the missing things. Then coming to data auditing, of course there are many commercial data scrubbing tools available in the market. If you just do a Google search, you'll come across many things like your Wrangler or Drake or cloud based solutions. Then IBM has got a good product for data scrubbing. So n number of commercial tools are available. Okay, so later point of time, once we complete our portions, we can take it up as a seminar, or as a use case study. Okay, then next is data auditing. What about data auditing? Okay, so you're by analyzing the data to discover the rules and relationships, in order to detect the outliers. Okay, so you're trying to detect the data that violates some conditions. Okay, so correlation analysis can be done, or clustering can be done in order to find out the outliers. Okay, so and many of the errors may require what is called your data transformation. Data transformation. Okay, so like once we find out the discrepancy, like what are the discrepancies and other things, so we need to define, and maybe we will have to apply a series of transformation on that particular data. Okay, then the second step involved in the data cleaning is what is called data migration and integration. Okay, so this transformation, I said it's not just one transformation, it could be a series of transformation that has to be applied onto the data. Okay, so transformation is generally done as a batch process. Okay, so while the user will wait without the feedback or whatever. Okay, so data migration tools are available, commercial tools are available. Then it's done, you can, I mean, you have a series of tools called ETL tools, extraction, transformation, and loading tools. Okay, so this will allow the users to specify the transformations using a GUI, graphical user interface. Okay, so it can be interactive and iterative. Okay, so once the transformation is complete, the user can go back and check whether any new anomalies are there, or whether all the mistakes have been corrected and other things. Okay, so generally numerous iterations may be required before the user can be satisfied. Okay, so example for tool, what is being mentioned is the Potter's wheel. Okay, so Potter's wheel is actually a very publicly, you can check out Potter's wheel regarding how to do a data cleaning using Potter's wheel. Okay, it's a publicly available data cleaning tool that will integrate your data discrepancy description, detection, and data migration and integration that can be automatically be done. Okay, so they will automatically perform this particular tool, Potter's wheel. Okay, will perform a discrepancy checking in the background. and other things. So that is regarding the data cleaning process. Okay, so next we have got done with data cleaning. So next is data integration. Okay, so we have completed the first step in data pre-processing. The second step is what is called the data integration. Okay, so why do we need to go for data integration? Why do we need to go for data integration?
Duplicates, to avoid duplicates.
Yeah, to avoid duplicates. Plus, I think I remember showing you one particular framework for data warehouse. Yeah, this one. Yes. See, you can see here. Why do we go for this diagram? Will help you to understand why we need to go for data integration. See, the data which is coming into your data warehouse is coming from heterogeneous data sources, different data sources. One data source can be in Chicago, another one can be in New York, another one can be in Toronto, another one can be in Vancouver. So heterogeneous data sources. Okay, and there are many chances for data inconsistency and all the issues, whatever we discussed in the data cleaning part, to pop up. Okay, so we need to clean, integrate, transform, load, and refresh the data before we put it into the data warehouse. Okay, so data mining requires data integration, that is merging the data from different data sources. Okay, so this could be different databases, heterogeneous databases as I have shown here, or it could be some data cubes, or data could be coming from some flat files, or it could be straight away from the internet. Okay, so careful integration of data is very, very important or very much required in order to avoid so many issues like your redundancy, inconsistency. Redundancy is nothing but duplicate data. Okay, so if you avoid all these issues, you can improve the accuracy of your data, and thereby you can speeden up your data mining process. Okay, so coming to data integration. Okay, so combining data from multiple sources into a coherent store. Okay, so it speaks about schema integration. Schema is nothing but the skeleton of your database or whatever. Okay, so see, a dot customer id so is equal to, I'm telling, here customer id is given as hash, or customer number. Okay, so I want to tell that this id and hash both are the same. Okay, so these sort of things will have to be done, because this may be present in database A, this may be present in database B. So when you go for data integration, I have to tell that this customer ID is equal to this customer ID. Okay, so that's nothing but integrating the metadata from different sources. Okay, then another thing that can happen is what is called the entity identification problem. Okay, so that is like how the real world entities from multiple data sources can be matched up. Okay, so that's what your entity identification problem is coming up. Whether Bill Clinton is equal to Clintonville, okay, or whether he is equal to William Clinton. So that's what is entity identification problem all about. Or how can the data analyst or even the computer, they can say, be sure that customer ID in one database is equal to customer number in another database. So both are referring to the same attribute. Okay, so that's a major thing to be looked into. Okay, so yeah, so we'll have to look into the data type, the range of values that are being permitted for the attribute, whether any integrity constraints rules are being specified for that particular data. Okay, so if we look into the metadata and try to get all this information, that itself will help us to reduce the error in when we go for what is called your schema integration. Okay, so then again, whether any dependencies are there. Okay, I don't want to tell about different dependencies. When you learn about DBMS, you will come to know about functional dependency, and n number of dependencies are there for the data, which has to be taken care. So especially when we go for schema integration. Okay, for example, let me give you a big business example. For example, maybe in one particular system, okay, so the discount for a thing, okay, may be applied to the order, okay, whereas in another system, okay, it could be applied to the each individual item line within that particular order. Okay, so I mean, if that is not being noticed before the data integration, okay, so then it can so happen that finally the discounts are not being properly given in a sales and a marketing system. Okay, so then detecting and resolving the data value conflicts. Okay, so for the same real world entity, attribute values from different sources are different. Okay, so that can also be another issue. Then different representations, different scales. So this is another issue. Okay, so I mean, which has to be taken care. Okay, so now how do we handle the various issue? The main issue, one of the major issue in data integration is about handling the redundancy. Okay, so redundancy, uh, I mean, the majority of redundancy can be detected by means of what is called your correlation analysis. Correlation analysis. Okay, so correlation means when you're given two attributes, okay, so you can measure how strongly one attribute implies the other, okay, based on the available data. Okay, so when you say correlation analysis for nominal data, we call it as what is called chi-square test. And for numeric data, we call it as correlation analysis. So this is chi-square correlation analysis for nominal data. Okay, so that's how you can detect the redundancy. Okay, so how to handle the redundancy or how to detect the redundancy. The second is correlation analysis. Numeric data. This is Pearson's correlation analysis. The first one is what is called your chi-square correlation analysis, meant for nominal data. Okay, so yeah. So when I say nominal data, all of you know what basically is a nominal data. I don't want to give you again explain what is nominal data, ordinal data, interval scaled, ratio scaled, and all those things. We have already discussed all those things in the previous classes. Okay, so like for what I mean to say is for the nominal data, the correlation relationship between the two attributes, you can find it out by means of what is called your chi-square test. Okay, some equation is being given here. Rather than telling this, let me give you an example what is being mentioned out here. Okay, a similar one is also mentioned in your textbook. This is another one. Okay, so let's see what this chi-square calculation tells you. Okay, so let's say around 1500 people are being surveyed. Okay, and it was noted whether each person will play chess or not play chess. Okay, and again each person was polled regarding his preferred material, reading material, whether he likes fiction or he doesn't like fiction. Okay, so basically there are two attributes. One is chess playing, play chess or not play chess, and the second one is preferred reading. So these are the two attributes. Okay, so this table is what is called a contingency table in the, I mean, as far as
Ma'am, is this a 2x2 matrix?
yes. 2x2 matrix. Yeah. So this is what, I mean, we don't call it as a 2x2 matrix in contingency. I mean, chi-square test, we call it as a contingency table. Contingency table is a better appropriate terminology which is being used here. Okay. So you can see here the observed frequency. Okay, observed frequency or the count of each possible joint event, okay, is shown in the contingency table. Okay, so the numbers whatever is being shown in the bracket, it's actually the expected frequency. Okay, out here observed and expected, it's shown as chi-square equal to sum of observed minus expected the whole square divided by the expected. So the numbers whatever is shown in the bracket is expected frequency. So this expected frequency is calculated as row total into column total, row total into column total divided by the total number of observations. So that's how you calculate it. For example, for any row, you can calculate it. Let's say the row total, it is 450 into the column total. What is it? 300. Yeah, into 300 divided by total number of observation is 1500. So 1500. Well, how much do you get this? It comes to 90. Okay, so that's the 90 out here. Okay, that's how you get the 90. Same way 360. How do you get this 360? Row total into column total. 450 into a column is 1200 divided by 1500. So that will give you 360. Okay, so that's how you find for each. You can find out 210, 840, everything you will get. Okay, 840 you will get it as 1050 into 200. 200, yeah, divided by 1500, that will give you 840. So that's nothing but the observed frequency, expected frequency. Okay, so again you can see that the sum of the expected frequencies must be equal to the total observed frequency for that row. For example, 90 plus 360 is equal to 450. 210 plus 840 will give you 1050. Same way, the expected frequencies in any column must also be equal to the total observed frequency for that particular column. For example, 360 plus 840 will give you 1200, and 90 plus 210 will give you 340. Okay, so now you compute the chi-square. Chi-square, you are given an equation. Chi-square equation is being given, observed minus expected, the whole square divided by expected. So you compute the chi-square as 507. Okay, 507.93. Okay, so basically this chi-square statistics, so that will test the hypothesis that the two given attributes A and B, or out here this chess playing and the preferred reading, they are independent. Okay, so that is there is no correlation between them. Okay, so the test is actually based on a significance level. Okay, so something called the degree of freedom. Something called the degree of freedom. So the degree of freedom, how you get is the number of rows minus 1 into number of columns minus 1. So out here, how many rows and how many columns? We have 2 rows and 2 columns. So 2 minus 1 into 2 minus 1, you get 1. So 1 degree of freedom. Okay, so degree of freedom, this is degree of freedom. So don't worry regarding this calculation. I'm just explaining this for the completeness sake. You need to understand it's a technique for detecting the redundancy. So, degree of freedom turns out to be 1. Okay, so for 1 degree of freedom, what happened? Okay, so we just calculated the degree of freedom. So that is equal to 1. Okay, so for 1 degree of freedom, so the chi-square value, whatever is needed to reject the hypothesis. So you need to look into what is called a table is available. And if you open any of your statistics in the table, you can see there that is upper percentage points, and for chi-square distribution there is values are available. So from there, if you look at for significance level 0.001, you will get the value as 10.828. Okay, so this is based on the chi-square distribution table available in any statistics textbook. Okay, so now we have computed it as 10.80. From the table we'll get it as 10.828. Okay, out here we have computed it as 507.93. Okay, so our computed value, this is greater than 10.828. Okay, so which means we can reject the hypothesis. Okay, so that means your playing chess and preferred reading, they are correlated. Okay, they are correlated. Okay, so we are in fact rejecting the hypothesis. Okay, so we are rejecting the hypothesis. What was the hypothesis? The hypothesis was telling that they are independent. So they are not independent. So they both are correlated. That's what chi-square test tells you about. Okay, so then another one is what is called your correlation analysis. Okay, so correlation analysis is basically for numeric data. Okay, so for numeric, you compute what is called Pearson's product movement of coefficient. Okay, so for numeric attributes, we evaluate the correlation between the two attributes. Let's say A and B. Okay, by computing what is called the correlation coefficient. Pierre Carlson's correlation coefficient. Okay, so R of A comma B, correlation coefficient of two attributes A and B. So if this is greater than 0, then we can say that they are positively correlated. Okay, that means when A value increases, B also increases and there is a strong correlation. Okay, so if it is less than 0, it is negative correlation, otherwise it is independent. So that's what correlation analysis tells you. Okay, so this is a scatter plot showing you the correlation values from what happens in -1 to +1. Okay, values, correlation values were varying. Okay, so next is what is called the covariance of numeric data. Okay, so correlation analysis, when it comes to numeric variables, we call it as chi-square test. Okay, then for numeric data, we call it as correlation analysis. Then there is one more method called covariance for numeric data. Okay, so this is actually something similar to your correlation. Okay, so it's for assessing how much the two attributes are changing together. Okay, so how much two attributes are changing together, that's what the covariance tells you. Okay, so if it is a plus value, which means both are both the attributes tend to be larger than their expected value, otherwise small, otherwise it's not true. So that's what it says. Then you can see an example out here. The stock prices. Okay, stock prices are being shown here. Okay, so you're computing the covariance and you get the value as 4. You can look into the equations and other things see out here. So let's interpret the result. Okay, so we're getting a positive value. Okay, positive covariance value. So when we say a positive covariance, we can say that the stock prices for both the companies are rising together. Okay, so that's what this +4 tells you. Okay, A and B rise together since the covariance is of A and B is greater than 0. Okay, the equations are given here. You can look into how regarding the calculation part. Okay, so interpretation, I've given you what it is. Okay, so that's what is your covariance is all about. Okay, so next, moving on to what is called your, are you all listening? Are you all listening?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Abel is listening. Sorry, I got disconnected. Just a second, I need to project again. Okay, meanwhile, let me take the attendance then. Okay, quickly answer your attendance. Anirudh?
Present, ma'am.
Ram Harini?
Present.
Yeah, noted.
Present, ma'am. Ma'am, 3 present, ma'am.
Yeah. Dharani, okay, Dharani. Fine. 3 is present. What about 5?
Present, ma'am.
Kalyan Sundar?
Present, ma'am.
Aravind?
Present.
Sharan Varghese?
Present, ma'am.
Shaktipriya?
Present, ma'am.
Nishok?
Present, ma'am.
Shreya?
Present, ma'am.
Likita? 27. Anybody putting in the chat window? Okay, Likita is absent. Suvedha?
Present, ma'am.
Vishal Bhashyam?
Present, ma'am.
Srimati?
Present, ma'am.
Nityashri?
Yes, ma'am.
Pranav?
Present, ma'am.
Srimati? Yes.
Present, ma'am.
Likita 27 present, ma'am. Likita was sleeping when I took attendance. Too boring, is it? 5th hour?
Ma'am, she has some network issue. ma'am.
Okay, fine. Right, noted. Raja Singh? 49. Sleeping or not present? Okay, Pooja,
Yes, ma'am.
Lavanya,
Present, ma'am.
Nityashri,
Present, ma'am.
Sriram,
Present, ma'am.
Sriram, interesting or boring? Are you listening to what I was discussing?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It was interesting, ma'am.
What did I discuss, Sriram? What was the last topic? Last topic got washed away with the sleep. Let's ask the next person. Okay, Satyamohan. Satyamohan, okay, very cleverly told in chat window present. Okay, Sharan. Anymore, everybody will answer in the chat window. Fine, Aviral Patel.
Present, ma'am.
Hemavartini.
Present, ma'am.
Ajay. Ajay, okay, noted. I'll not ask you questions. You can answer. At least I can hear your voice. Akshata Saha.
Present, ma'am.
Feeling very sleepy, yeah?
No, ma'am.
Karthik Balaji.
Present, ma'am.
Santosh Kumar.
Yes, ma'am.
Anandarun. Okay, noted. Rahul 116. Okay. Apu Suhasini Srikanth. Suhasini Srikanth is absent. Okay. Apurva Ravichandran.
Present, ma'am.
Vitun.
Present, ma'am.
Adityan.
Present, ma'am.
Selva Niklesh. Class rep is absent today, yeah? Ram Charan.
Present, ma'am.
Chinta Murari.
Present, ma'am.
Santosh Kumar.
Present, ma'am.
Pavitra Shri.
Present, ma'am.
Praveen. Rakesh. Rakesh is not there, huh? Marked him as absent. Okay, so few absentees. Coming to C section, Nityashri,
Present, ma'am.
Nishok. Nishok is there. No. Okay, Nishok is absent. Abel,
Present, ma'am.
Deepika,
Present, ma'am.
Kevin Kurian Joseph,
Present, ma'am.
Hiten,
Present, ma'am.
Adya,
Present, ma'am.
Devora,
Yes, ma'am.
Kishore,
Present, ma'am.
Sridevi,
Present, ma'am.
Yashrai,
Yes, ma'am.
Jayesh Kumar.
Present, ma'am.
Anybody who was sleeping and missed attendance, let me know. Otherwise, I'm closing the attendance sheet. Right. So the others were genuinely absent. Okay, so let's
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Ma'am, Suhasini Srikanth is having some network issue. That's why she's not able to.
Suhasini
get
Srikanth.
the
She
attendance.
belongs to A section or
Yeah,
C
ma'am.
section?
A section, ma'am.
Suhasini
A section,
Srikanth.
121%, ma'am.
Oh, I need to check the number now.
Ma'am, it's
Rajas
117.
117. Okay, noted as present. Fine. Anybody else? Who?
121, A section.
Class rep. What happened to you, rep?
Ma'am, I got a call in between, ma'am.
Okay, anybody else? That's it, right? Fine.
Ma'am, 117, ma'am.
117 is what just told. Yeah, somebody told me that you have network issue. I have marked you present. No issues.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, that's it. Kishore, what should we take up next? 57 Kishore.
Yes, ma'am.
What should we take up next? We have cleaned the data, integrated the data. Next, what should we do?
Ma'am, data selection.
Yes, very good. Data selection by means of what is called a data reduction. I'm happy that you're listening. Okay. 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 Data reduction. Data reduction. Okay, so we have so data selection by applying some data reduction strategies. Okay, so this is a third step involved. Okay, so like what is data reduction all about? Okay, so data reduction is all about obtaining a reduced representation of the data that's much smaller in volume, but it still produces the same result. Okay, so why do we go for this data reduction? Because we are not dealing with a small database with tens or hundreds of records. Okay, so the database or the data warehouse will be storing terabytes, TBs and TBs of data. Okay, so doing a complex analysis on the entire data set might take a long time to run the analysis on the complete data set. Okay, so we need to get a representational set which is much reduced in size to apply the techniques and make sense out of the data. Okay, so that's the reason why we go for what is called your data reduction. Because the main issue, I think in the beginning when we started discussing the data pre-processing, like I had given a brief regarding each of these techniques. So then when it came to data selection or data reduction, when I came here, I mentioned something called the curse of dimensionality. Do you remember? Curse of dimensionality.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So that is significant out here. Oh, it's mentioned here. Yeah. Dimensionality reduction. Okay. So you have, these are the various data reduction strategies. I'll tell in the next slide regarding this. Okay. So we have what is called the dimensionality reduction, then the numerosity reduction, and the data compression. These are the three major taxonomies given for data reduction. The first one is what is called the dimensionality reduction. Please make a note of it. Okay, so many of these techniques are, methodologies are highly technical. So we'll just try to understand what it is all about from the data mining point of view. Okay, to understand the concept of data reduction. Okay, so I'll give you the links where you can work it out and try to understand it at a next level. Okay, so please make a note of all these. Data dimensionality reduction, wherein you can remove the unimportant attributes. So you have three techniques out here. First one is what is called the wavelet transforms. Second one is what is called the principal component analysis. And the third one is what is called the feature subset selection or the feature creation. Okay, so the second category of technique is what is called your numerosity reduction. Numerosity reduction, or simply call it as data reduction, wherein you have three techniques: regression, log linear models, then histograms, clustering and sampling, and data cube aggregation. Finally, coming to the third technique, nothing but your data compression. Okay, so first we'll start with the dimensionality reduction. Okay, so dimensionality reduction. So dimensionality reduction, as I just mentioned, the main thing that comes into our mind when we speak about dimensionality reduction is nothing but what is called the curse of dimensionality. This is a very important aspect. Still an important area of research, the curse of dimensionality. Okay, so what is this curse of dimensionality all about? Curse of dimensionality. Sharon Varghese is still there in class?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know what this curse of dimensionality is all about? Or do you feel like cursing me for asking the question? What is curse of dimensionality all about? Somebody who knows can tell me, because I have already told this what it is. Or when will this curse of dimensionality come into picture? Nobody wants to tell.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
data is like in a Rubik's cube, right? In the form of Rubik's cube. So we have a lot of dimensions in it, and it's very difficult to gather, integrate or take out the data from that. So that is curse of dimensionality when we have like millions of dimensions in it.
Yeah. So like especially when you have attributes more than 100, then we call it as a high dimensional data. That is when we call it as a high dimensional data, because so many issues will arise when we try to work with this high dimensional data. Okay, so like it may be very difficult to do data analysis on it. Okay, so like we may not be able to visualize the data properly or identify the patterns. Okay, all these issues will come up. Okay, so that entire issue is what is called the curse of dimensionality. Okay, so when the dimensionality increases, data becomes increasingly sparse. Okay, so that is increases in the sense generally greater than or equal to 100 attributes. When you have more than 100 attributes, then we call it as high dimensional data. Okay, so yeah.
Ma'am, so you mean to say that like when we have too many features, observation becomes harder to cluster something
Yeah,
like that?
so that is the reason why we go for what is called your feature extraction, feature selection. Remove the unwanted features from the data. Select only
Okay.
those attributes, whatever is necessary for analysis.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
but by using this Euclidean distance method, like if we have too many observations, then can you just try to equidistant all these and then sort it out? Isn't that possible?
That may not be possible when it is a high dimensional data, especially when it is more than 100. So we will have to go for feature extraction, feature selection, and dimensionality reduction technique. We will have to apply one of these. Especially one of these technique has to be applied, reduce the number of dimensions, and then go for data analysis. Okay, so
Okay,
we
ma'am.
have to go for, yeah, that is what is removing the unimportant attribute, because there'll be hundreds of attributes for one particular analysis. All the 100 may not be relevant. So you try to order them, or try to bring out the significance out them, try to understand which is more important using some feature selection technique, then consider only those attributes which is of importance to us, and then proceed with it. Okay, so dimensionality reduction helps to eliminate the irrelevant features, reduce the noise, reduce the time and space required for data mining. Okay, easier visualization. Okay, so these are the various dimensionality reduction techniques. Okay, so first, it's called the wavelet transformation. Wavelet transformation. So wavelet transformation, if you tell, it is basically a linear signal processing technique. Okay, it's called DWT transformation, discrete wavelet transformation, a very important component when it comes to signal processing applications. Okay, so since we don't have a lab to demonstrate and understand it, I can just tell you as of now only theoretically. Maybe after we complete the theory portions, maybe a little bit early, we can look into how to implement this principal component analysis, wavelet transformation, all those things. We can do it with the help of your Python. Okay, so as of now, let's try to understand what it is. So what it says is this discrete wavelet transformation. It's basically, I mentioned, it's a linear signal processing technique. So this, when it is being applied to some data vector, let's say X. Okay, so what happens is it gets transformed into X gets transformed into X naught. Okay, but the thing is both will be of the same length. Okay, so now you might ask me, if both are of the same length, what data reduction am I going to do? Because when we are speaking about data reduction, and if one is getting transformed to another vector and both are having the same vector as the original data, what does it has to got to do with your data reduction? So, but the fact is, this particular vector, this transformed vector x naught, okay, so this can actually be truncated. So that's the point, or that's the feature. That's about wavelet transformation. Okay, so that can be truncated. This particular vector can be truncated. Okay, so when you go for truncation, naturally you're getting a compressed approximation of the data. Okay, so you can retain a certain percentage or certain fraction of the data, which have, you can say, stronger wavelet coefficients. Okay, you can order them on the basis of the significance of the coefficients, and then the strongest wavelet coefficients can be retained, remaining can be truncated or eliminated. Okay, so you can specify some threshold, user defined threshold can be maintained. Okay, so like up to that threshold you can retain. Okay, and the remaining all the other coefficients can be set to 0 or you can remove it. Okay, so as a result of which you get a compressed form of the data. Okay, so data is transformed to preserve the relative distance between the objects at different levels of resolution. Okay, so allows natural clusters to become more distinguishable, used for image compression. Yeah, this wavelet transformation, PCA, they are all used for mainly used in the domain of image processing, image compression. Okay, so this wavelet transformation for multi-resolution analysis, yeah, it stores only a small fraction of the strongest of wavelet coefficients. Okay, so there are different types like called HAR and Debouche 4. Okay, so we are not going to look into the much technical details. Okay, so the point to be noted is this is being used in signal processing applications. Okay, so if we create a suitable representation of a signal, okay, so what we can do is we can ignore or discard the least significant pieces of that representation, and then we can still keep that original signal largely intact. Okay, or that's what is your wavelet transformation all about. Okay, so this wavelet transformation, it can be applied to your data cube also. When it's being applied to the data cube, how you do it is you will be applying the transformation to the first dimension, then to the second, then to the third. So that's how you proceed. Okay, so there are different methods for it. A general method is being mentioned out here. When you have length L, it must be a power of 2. So padding with zeros whenever necessary. Okay, so each transform will be having 2 functions and it will be applied to pair of data, and every time the data gets reduced by half, L by 2. Okay, so these 2 functions are being recursively applied till you reaches the desired length. Okay, so I know it is not as simple as I just mentioned in 5 minutes, this discrete wavelet transformation and other things. So this and the next technique, principal component analysis, both are highly technical methodologies, you can say. Okay, so you can get a complete understanding only when you try to implement this using some application and try to understand. Okay, we'll take up that in that manner in a later point of time. So as of now, you try to understand and at least have a bird's eye view regarding what exactly this wavelet transformation is all about. Okay, so next is about what is called your principal component analysis, or PCA. Okay, so before we get into the technicalities of this, first let's try to understand what this PCA is all about. Okay, so unless this PCA, this principal component analysis, is used only when you have a data set with a large number of components or a large number of attributes. Okay, because the real world data, whatever we encounter, they are very huge. You can even call them as messy data sets. Okay, with a large number of attributes. Okay, so if we apply any machine learning model on a huge data set without reducing the number of dimensions, okay, then it will be really computationally expensive, analysis becomes difficult, and it might become meaningless. Okay, so to reduce the number of dimension and to retain the maximum information, we need techniques like principal component analysis. Okay, and then once we reduce and then do an analysis, then we can deliver more accurate machine learning models, okay, which has less time complexity and space complexity. Okay, then again, PCA is a technique which you just cannot apply it straight away. Okay, so PCA itself requires some pre-processing steps. For example, before applying PCA, there should not be any null values. Okay, PCA cannot be applied to any data set in case null values are available. Okay, so then you will have to treat the null values accordingly as how you do it in data cleaning. Okay, either you will have to drop it or replace it with something, or something has to be done regarding the null values, because PCA cannot be done on a data set with null values. And again, if the attributes are having different, they are in different scales, different metrics of measurement, then again we'll have to standardize the variables before even applying your principal component analysis. Okay, so I think it's time up. So next class we'll look into what this PCA is all about. So these are the two dimension reduction techniques. So I thought I'll complete my portion today. Unfortunately, there's one more thing left. On half an hour portion, 20 minutes, 25 minutes portion is left. Okay, so maybe we'll take it up in the next class. We have one more class, right, Anirudh? Monday we'll miss the class. I think Tuesday we'll get a class. Right, Tuesday first 20 minutes we'll finish, then we'll have a revision. So please note the question bank is being uploaded in your GCR. Please make a note of it. Okay, so otherwise we are almost done as far as the first CT is concerned. Right, thank you.